All right, the entity is amplifying plane activity again inside of the apartment. It's over the television while I'm in the depths of the apartment. That's called amplification. That's amplified audible activity. And engineered light, that's P.O.C. That's what the entity does with helicopters, okay? That's P.O.C., that's hovering again, and they're repeatedly as of 2 a.m. They did so as of 2 a.m. because I started focusing in on the sex offender who is going to federal prison. She's the 55 plus senior citizen group stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments, the specific environment. There is no elevation where you're taking off over the Woodside Senior Apartments, okay? So you could just look at the map where Ontario International Airport is. They're flying west in the direction, the volume, the elevation, they're clearly targeting. You also know this common sense because the fake sun is over this apartment complex and the engineer light is 24/7. That's why I have multiple shadows back. You can see all these shadows. This is not the product of these porch lights, okay? Ontario International Airport is indeed engaged in impunity. That's relevant to the ways in which you're going to prosecute the state. The entity's been engaged in stalking using planes. You can look at the body of evidence that is being uploaded to YouTube, by the way, as of 2018 to 2022. And then the 2024 documentation, stalking by planes and helicopters, is a staple. It is literally a hallmark. That's why over a senior citizen community, it is uncharacteristic of a multifamily resident zoning area. The elevation, the frequency, the ongoing substantial disruption to quiet enjoyment, etc. It's also occurring in a specific environment where the fake sun is rising and setting. My shadow is all over the place. Okay, this has nothing to do with the light. Okay, that's a sex offender. She's going to federal prison. She's acting on behalf of the entity. This is a chief means of amplified audible activity. As you focus in on a demon, as you focus on a third party, the entity engages in stalking you in helicopters. The entity engages in stalking you in planes. Alan D. Wapner will not remain as a president over a corrupt airport that's engaged in psychological torture. Because that's what that's relevant to. That's why you stalk somebody in planes in such an unheard of manner, because it's supposed to result in that American citizens being criminally defamed. The people of the state and the state will be subject to federal prison for group stalking in helicopters with corrupt terrorist organizations like the Ontario Police, and for group stalking in commercial planes and in planes, which the government uses. Commercial planes are indicative of the corrupt airports in California that are engaged in state surveillance, which the body of evidence shows. Again, it's 2 o'clock in the morning, specifically 2:45. The location where you're seeing the planes, it's on its face where you're seeing it, it's not going to be heard inside of this apartment. This is demonic activity. But secondly, just the common sense analysis, the entity is engaging in what is hovering down over the senior citizen community, nowhere near coming from appearing as though you're engaged in ordinary airport conduct. There's no airport departures or coming from the Ontario International Airport. The earliest is 5 o'clock in the morning. And there's also no vantage point where you're flying, taking off from the airport and then hovering to be at 408 West G Street and to be at that low elevation as though you're coming from the airport and then hunkered down at that elevation and then taking off again. It is clearly targeting, which you know through the amplification, you know through the engineered light, you know through the maintenance of the fake sun all day long. This is what the entity is doing repeatedly, and that is the same pattern of conduct. The mental illness of the demon possessed is shown through their repeated engagement in that pattern of conduct, which is clearly incriminating them, and all the people of the state are going to federal prison because the state's group stalking with them. Okay, this is P.O.C. This is called audible activity and engineered light. They're also engaged in federal stalking. The Ontario International Airport, Avanav communities, the people of the state, the Ontario Police Department, the Ontario Fire Department, the City of Ontario in general is going to be prosecuted. This is Okay, this is what they're doing under the fake sun during the day. They're flying at a higher elevation than the fake sun that you saw hovering down directly over the edge of this building the other day. They're stalking in planes in California, and those are demons that are doing so. Okay, the entity is engaging in conduct as though the volume is lessening because they're going higher up in elevation. There's no airport that's behind the this apartment complex. The Ontario International Airport, when you are rising in elevation right here, coming from the airport, you would already be at an elevation. No one's going to hear you. You're not going to violate anybody's quiet enjoyment. You're not moving into a 55 plus senior citizen community because you're going to be repeatedly, systematically disrupted with planes hovering over the property. Okay, and the reason why the helicopters and the planes are happening is because the people of the state are living at a facilitated venue. They're all going to federal prison. Apartments 33 through 64 are fully engaged in state surveillance, and they chiefly rely on this sex offender in 55. The Ontario train is not possible to be heard. That's another method of audible activity in engineered light. You're witnessing state surveillance. The state that's employing trains and planes and helicopters, it's implicating interstate commerce. It's implicating the state. You are literally telling on the state while the entity uses such openly demonic because you can't hear the train, and the ongoing amplification of planes that are clearly deviating from anywhere near the Ontario International Airport in order to be over a senior citizen complex. The trains heard inside of the apartment, the planes are heard inside of the apartment, the helicopters that they're heard inside of the apartment, and the Ontario police heavily stalking over Ontario Woodside Senior Apartments is fully documented for years, and they're group stalking now while the Ontario International Airport is using planes to do so. All the entity is doing, as you're learning, they're just vacillating methods of engaging in the same exact P.O.C, audible activity, light activity, relevant positioning. Relevant positioning is accomplished by the demons that are living at Woodside. The senior citizen community at Woodside, they're going to federal prison. Every single last one of them. And beyond this community, the demons, for example, living at 325 West G Street, the demons living in 717 North Vine Avenue, the entity is going to be prosecuted for what I'm documenting right now. This is gang stalking in California. It is currently 2:48 a.m. That's criminal presence by the state that's engaged in surveillance using planes. It's not within the lawful use of their commercial planes. It's not lawful conduct, and also a common sense breakdown of what you're doing, clearly targeting using planes. And the entity engages in impunity while doing so, while you're documenting them. They're hovering right over as though they're taking off here. There's no taking off from right here. They're hovering right over Woodside Senior because they're stalking. They're flying right over near the apartment complex, and they're hovering right above and as though they're taking off here. These are demons who are stalking from the Ontario International Airport. Alan D. Wapner will not remain as a president over the Ontario International Airport, and he's also going to be removed from the position that he's holding. He's a demon, a closeted sex offender, and a stalker who is sitting on the council, the Ontario City Council. In case you did not know, the Ontario City Hall, the Ontario City Council, they're a bunch of group stalking demons in Ontario. And that's why the Ontario International Airport is engaged in group stalking with the state. This is P.O.C. The entity employed the planes and the trains. While I'm documenting, all of what I'm documenting is being monitored because this sex offender who's going to federal prison is being documented on my phone. The entity engages in that pattern of conduct with the intent to harass and terrorize. You can see them hovering over the senior citizen complex, clearly stalking in planes. This is P.O.C. It's currently 2:50 a.m. The entity is engaged in that sort of pacing, this frequency, as of 2 a.m. because I'm documenting this sex offender in apartment 55. 55 represents the people. It is a chief means of amplified audible activity inside of this apartment. They are engaged in criminal conduct, living in a specific environment, not a private residential area, and not a private residential apartment complex. The state's pattern of conduct, which is demonic and malicious, by an entity that's using planes hovering over the venue. It's incriminating everyone. This is P.O.C.